Yeah, I think Nolene, you have really outlined, the importance of not just looking at sexual and reproductive health and rights from a service delivery end of view, not just looking at it from your sexuality rights of it angle, but really unpacking it in how it have impact in your everyday life. So these collective recommendations was put together by the activists the 20 activists who were actually authors of the booklet that Nolene talked about earlier. It's the My Body, My Human Rights, and My Activism on SRHR in Fiji. This work came about way back in Tonga, 2015, where a group of us were able to, DIVA was able to host a Talanoa session in one of those side event rooms in Tonga to discuss about SRHR and how it have an impact on our life as LGBTQI activists and from a regional perspective. And in that room was not only Fiji, it was PACA, there was also other regional reps. And the diversity of those that came into that room were not just the lesbians, not just the trans, but also the sex workers was also in the room. The youth reps were also in that room, really wanting to know more about sexual and reproductive health and rights. Because one of the things that the early work that we as a movement have to do is making sure that when we're talking about SRHR, it's not just about cis woman's issue. It's not just about straight woman issue. It's about everyone's issues. Everyone that is impacted in their sexual rights or in their reproductive rights, you have some work and contribution into this content of sexual and reproductive health and rights. So some of the highlights from these key recommendations that I was thinking about that it could suit this room today is, Nolene, I would say, even the first one, knowing the situation that we are on right now, the high pushback, not just on SRHR, but also on trans, on LGBTQI rights. It's very important that we up our game in how we're being very clear with what our messaging is to make sure that we still educate these people that it's not just about LGSEC or LGBTQI issues, it's about everyone. So, and the next one, Nolene, I would say is number 4, which is about, this came out strongly and is still coming out in different rooms. And I'm sure Chris Prasad is also in the room today, that is also came in one of the sessions that we conducted with the Pacific Women Lead Space, which is like, how are you accessing the counseling services here in Fiji? And it might be different in other regional countries, but here in Fiji, we all know this. We do this peer-to-peer counseling, but this is some of the work that we still need, especially at this time. There's a lot of pushback. How can we better push for these services that can really progress? So how do we really create more opportunities for LGBTI community to access not just safe, but highly confidential counseling service also? The next one that I will tap into is number 9. Nolene, on the next slide, which really get us to think about, when we are doing this work, we need to make sure that we're all on the same level of content. So we make sure that we honor the work that has been done by others in paving some ways in how we are progressing this issue. And sometimes when we don't do the movement accountability, this could also lead to harming some of the work that has really been progressing and has really moved some of into the spaces of decision making and stuff. So how do we make sure as a movement that we are having a collective stand and we are making sure that we are holding each other accountable when we are talking about these issues out with the stakeholders or decision makers? And the other one that I would really also flag on is the next slide, Nolene, was on number 11. Like, how are we making sure that all this information that is also leading to the progress of the Constitution? DIVA right now, as we all know, in Fiji, we might be going through a review of our Constitution. So how do we make sure that as a movement, recognize, protect, we need to protect what is already being done by the movement that has progressed the work. We do know that in our Constitution, we have the Bill of Rights that really highlights what you said. So having to say that and know that, and knowing the current situation that our government now is moving towards, how do we make sure that we can have a collective voice to make sure that we safeguard what is in progress and is already part of our rights in this kind of space? So how do we make sure that we are following and we are holding our government accountable also? And also even on number 30, really talks about who is still not in the room. So what we try and better do now is making sure that we are really bringing in the rural, the maritime network members that still have to be part of this conversation. And I think that is all our work together that we need to really push for the inclusion of these network members in these kind of spaces, because this, through the work that we're doing right now with Uganda, these are actually the community members that get left out. They don't even have information on contraceptive. They don't even know that there is a thing called bodily autonomy, that you should have the rights to make decisions for your own body, regardless that you are married, regardless you have children, you have had children before, that you still have the autonomy to make these decisions. Next slide, Nolene, please. On the 18 and 20. So number 13 is what I just emphasized on. So on 18 is really about increased public awareness on CSE. I know that there's some region, there's some Joe Carl and them have done amazing work in this in Vanuatu, but also in Fiji, it's still something that we're still trying to push for. And for those of us, I saw someone mention something about the child abuse and stuff. So if we want to do some preposition analysis or submission on this, that we need to make sure that we are talking about this from a very early education level, the school level, high school, primary school, to make sure that they, in some way, we are really framing what is it that we have to talk about. It's not just about talking about sex. In some of the regional spaces that we go into, we get to hear from feminists that sharing that it's very hard for them to even mention it, because the minute they open their mouth to talk about CSC, there's already a mentality and already they're fixated that you are opening up a sex talk, right? So how do we really make sure to increase public awareness on CSC to transform patriarchal, homophobic, and misogynist social? This is all the things that we really can, if we push for CSC, these are the things that we really, issues that really is oppressing most of the young women today, because they would never, from the very early age in their school, they've been told that you're not supposed to talk about this, you are not taboo. And we do this thing and we always laugh about that. We can't even name body parts. You can't name a vagina, a penis, and we rather do the fruit thing. So how do we really transform that? If we are really up for pushing for CSC, then let's call a spade, let's call a vagina, a clitoris, and a penis. So those are the things that we need to stop tapping into. It's not just about just saying CSC, but really breaking it down and using the terms. I think the next slide is kind of my last one, which is on, I think for number 20 is really about how do we really actively do this thing of saying of solidarity with each other's work and being in solidarity in a more practical and active way. So how do we then really demonstrate that in the work that we do? Increase accountable action and advance universal human rights, gender, SRHR, and SOGISEC. It's not just the work of a CSO, but also stakeholders and also development agencies. You also have a role to play in this to make sure that we are holding our government accountable and making sure that whatever the work that we've done over the years, that it really has progressed us as a region, that we cannot fall back at this very crucial time. So thank you, and I look forward to the open discussion where we can really unpack some of this, and also you might have your own suggestion or recommendation that you can really propose in this webinar. Thank you.